looking at the age reduction bill and how that will begin to shape how the political space develops. And we've been joined by Babajide Ogunso, who is our data information analyst. You have been looking at how this has progressed, looking at the age of those to seek elections and those to get into office. What have you been able to find?
We can look at this from several ways, Gimba. This is the season of election, age, and performance. So let's look at the evidence on, do the younger leaders still significantly much more or less than the older ones? And we'll look at the evidence and really look at what the facts do tell us. And the second thing we need to decode is, do younger leaders perform better than the older ones? If yes, how? If no, why? You look at me today, for instance. There's the never too young or not too young bill. But what is the alternative to the not too young bill? What is the alternative? Now, for the conveners and those that are leading the discussion of the not too young bill, they've got their arguments, and we also need to look at their arguments. And we need to look at the alternative arguments. And today, we will be able to decide which of these camps should we belong to, because they are camps. In one camp, Gimba, we have the not too young to run bill. Now, in the second camp, it is the not too young to perform. Two different camps, not too young to run and not too young to perform.
What's the difference?
Now, we'll explore that this morning. Now, for the camp, let's start with the camp of the not too young to run. They have two major arguments on age. They look at how easy it is to become a leader in this country. They point out to what has happened since 1999. How easy is it to become a governor? The evidence does show that it's becoming more difficult, Nyota. In 1999, we had the youngest governor, Ibrahim Turaki. He was 35 years old. In 2003, it became much more difficult. And even though he was still a governor, the new set of governors, Bukola Saraki was the youngest. So we have moved from an Ibrahim Turaki who was governor in 1999 at the age of 35 to Bukola Saraki who was governor when he was 41. And then it became even much more difficult. In 2007, the youngest governor was no longer in his 30s. He was not even 40 or 41. It was Timipri Silva in Bielsa. He was 43. And then it got even much more difficult, By 2011, the youngest governor was no longer in his 30s or early 40s. The youngest governor was 44. That was Yari Abubakar in Zamfara. So we see the trend that it is becoming harder. By 2015, the youngest governor in that election was Ben Ayade of Cross River. He was 46, and up until when the election of Kogi State that brought in Yahaya Bello, Ben Ayade held that title of being the youngest governor, which is now has been taken by Yahaya Bello of Kogi State. But the summary is, if we look at what has happened since 1999, from Ibrahim Turaki of 35 years old, to Bukola Saraki, to Timipri Silva, to Yari Abubakar, to Ben Ayade, to Yahaya Bello, it clearly shows that it is becoming tougher to find a young man who is governor. So that is the primary argument of those that stick to the not too young to run bill, not too young to run bill.
Because I remember the not too young to run, they've maintained that stance that their powers lies in their numbers. So they can still pull this through and come up with a governor, for instance, who is 30 years old.
Yes, but again, that though they have the numbers, is it really about the numbers or is it about the performance? And that's what really differentiates between those in the camp of the not too young to run bill, that camp that argues about age, and the camp where I believe I belong to and where you also belong to, that it isn't really about age. It should be about performance. It should be about not too young to perform. Let's look at even the second argument of those in that camp of not too young to run bill. That camp of not too young to run bill. They look at the presidency, for instance, as well. Apart from me being tough to be, apart from me that is becoming tougher to become a governor, has it become easier to become the president of Nigeria? The evidence shows no. Look at what happened in 1979 in Yota. President Shagari was 54. His vice president, Alex Ekweme, late, was 46. So combined, Shagari and Ekweme, combined age of 100 years old. But look at the trend today. In 2015, when President Muhammadu Buhari won, he was not only 72 years old, he was Nigeria's oldest president ever. Let's look at another fact. When Vice President, his running mate, Yemi Osinbajo, professor, when he also ran alongside President Buhari, he was 58 years old. The fact shows that Professor Osinbajo was the oldest vice president Nigeria has ever had. That is the fact. Combined together, President Buhari and Professor Osinbajo, combined age of 130 years old. Never in the history of the country.
Has that translated into better performance?
Not necessarily. Again, we've seen some aspects of improvement in the economy, which is the fact, and we've also seen some aspects in the economy that has performed poorly. So it is not correct if we say every sector of the economy has performed poorly under both of them. That isn't the fact. The fact is there are some sectors that have performed well, and there are some sectors that have performed poorly. So age isn't the problem. And so the not too young to run bill is an error. And as a wise man said, an error only becomes a mistake if we refuse to correct it. Now we should also look at the camp of the other side, which is they're not too young to perform. And let's look at what those arguments are.